Okay guys, I'm going to take you through these notes as quickly as possible and get some of the most important concepts really reinforced, and then you'll have some time to go through the notes on your own and complete some worksheets. This is the cover slide, and what we're going to be doing today, our primary goal is looking at the fact that all living things are made of cells and that all cells are either prokaryotic or eukaryotic. So that's what those two big words are, prokaryotic and eukaryotic. They're the two main kinds of cells. This slide right here is just the video that you're watching right now of me going over these slides. So if you were absent or you just need to hear me going over it again, then you have those resources available to you. The two main things, again, that we're looking at, our learning targets today, are looking at organisms and determining if they are unicellular, meaning that they are a whole organism made of only one cell, or they're a really big, complicated organism, and that's called multicellular. They're made of anywhere between 2 and trillions of cells. And then we also need to be able to identify, if we're looking at a cell, if it's a prokaryotic cell or a eukaryotic cell. So we're looking at 7 vocab words. Of course, our main vocab word here is cell. Our 2 cells are prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. Organisms can either be unicellular organisms made of only one cell, like these guys, or multicellular organisms made of lots of different cells, like these guys. Cells are the basic component of biotic things. So everything that is biotic is either living and made of cells, or at least was once alive and made of cells. Abiotic things are not made of cells. So like rocks, wind, sun, those are things that are not living and they're not made of cells. So all living things have some specific characteristics. They're all biotic, they all reproduce, they all need energy. They all grow and develop, and they're all made of cells. Of course, we're focusing on this final requirement of living things today. So that's the one main thing you want to take away from this, that if it's living, it should be made of at least one cell. What is a cell? It's the smallest unit of life. An organism, if it can be considered alive as long as it's made of one cell. If it's made of one cell, it's called a unicellular organism. There's a large variety, lots of different kinds of unicellular organisms. Some of them are larger than others. Some of them are more complicated than others. And then there's lots of complicated multicellular living things. So we humans are multicellular. We're made of trillions of cells. Plants, most of the things, when you think of living things, are probably multicellular organisms, because unicellular organisms are microbes. You have to use a microscope to be able to see them, so you don't think about them very frequently. Cells come in a variety of shapes and sizes, and they have a variety of functions. These are just some examples of different kinds of cell. An amoeba, which is a unicellular organism. These are some plant cells. This is a human nerve cell, and these are a couple of different kinds of human blood cells. There are 3 parts of the cell theory. The cell theory is the basic idea that all scientists agree with about cells. The first part of the cell theory is all living things are made of cells. The second one is cells are the smallest units of life. And the third is cells come from pre-existing cells. Today we're going to focus on these first 2 things. So if it's living, it has to be made of a cell. And anything smaller than a cell is not considered living on its own. What that means is, like here you can see this is one cell. It's a protist, it's an organism. The little things that make up that cell, if they're just by themselves, they're not considered living things, even though they're part of a living thing. These are just some examples of unicellular organisms and multicellular organisms. You can come back and look at these later if you need that as a reference. Again, our 2 major types of cells are called prokaryotes and eukaryotes. The things that you've heard of and that you think about as living things, plants and animals, are both eukaryotic cells, also fungi and protists. We'll learn a little bit more about those later. All prokaryotes are bacteria. There's just two main kinds of bacteria, regular bacteria and archaea So those are our prokaryotes. Hopefully you notice off the bat that there are some commonalities and differences between these eukaryotes. And the one major difference between prokaryotes and eukaryotes just at first sight is their size. Eukaryotic cells are quite a bit bigger than prokaryotic cells. There are also some similarities. So all cells, living cells, have certain things in common. So I'm going to give you about 5 seconds to look at this slide and see if you can spot anything that looks similar between this prokaryote and eukaryote. I'm going to go ahead and stop here.